classified as a first felony offender, offense forcible rape. Sentencing date, January 6, 2017. Sentenced to a total of 6 years. Parole date, July 22nd, 2021. Good time, not eligible. Full term, June 14, 2022. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good morning, Mr. Bonette. My name is Bonnie Jackson. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll start the questioning off for the panel. You're 39 years old, Mr. Bonette,
Yes, ma'am.
and you've been incarcerated a little over 5 years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The victim in this case was your wife. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I think you all were going through a period of separation at that time, and you were supposedly allowing her to come into the home to retrieve her belongings. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How did that turn into a rape?
We had gotten into an argument about an affair that she was having. The argument got worse. It became violent, and I was just extremely angry with her. And she said some things, I said some things, and I felt like that was the worst thing that I could do to her at the moment, being so severely angry as I was. It just got out of control in that way.
Had there been a history? I'm seeing indication that there had been a history of domestic violence in your relationship with Ms. Freeland.
We had only had arguments. There had never been anything else physical. We have had a few arguments in the past.
Right. Whether or not you had previously been arrested for domestic abuse battery, I show, when you were arrested in this case for domestic abuse battery, and at some point in her statement to the police, she indicated that there had been a history of domestic abuse violence that wasn't necessarily reported. So it's not unusual for that to happen and the victim not to report it. Okay.
It did. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I did. I'm sorry. We were in Houston, Texas. We had an altercation. She ended up getting struck in this altercation, and it did turn physical, and it happened about that fast. And I was arrested for it, and we did. Yes, ma'am. We had been arguing that day, and she was trying to leave. She was trying to walk down the road, and I was trying to stop her from walking down the road, and we got to arguing seriously, and we both got physical with each other. And
well, let me ask you about this. Why do you think that you engaged in not what happened, but I mean, what is it about you that you get so angry that you feel like you have to lash out physically against a wife, a dating partner? What is it in you that makes that part of how you respond to things? Have you taken any kind of anger management programs?
I've taken the sex offender program, and other than that, I've been in jail, and being in jail has taught me to be very tolerant of other people, and it's,
Being in jail doesn't teach you that. Doesn't teach you that.
but I haven't taken any anger management programs, but,
Why not?
well, I really haven't had any, availability of anger management programs in jail yet. The only thing that I was
How long have you been where you are currently housed?
2 years.
And where were you before then?
I was in West Carroll Parish.
Okay, so you've never been at a facility where they offered anger management?
I don't believe so. If I was, I wasn't aware of it.
Well, the rape and the domestic violence is all about control. You're feeling like you have a right to control another person.
Right. I had some deep insecurities at that time, and when we would argue, those 2 times in particular, I felt like she was really touching on that. And at that time, like I said, I wasn't secure with myself, and I really took that out.
Why were you so insecure? Because if those issues are still there, then what's going to happen is in your next relationship, they're going to come to the surface. So what's the source of your insecurity?
I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I was really failing. And I had a grim outlook on life at that time. I wasn't happy with life. I felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job as a husband. And I felt like she was just really touching on that, and I got very upset about it.
Okay, well, let's talk about what kind of education do you have?
At this point, I have a GED.
Okay, you got it while you're incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. I felt like I would need it upon.
I understand. So while you on the outside, you had not graduated from high school.
No, ma'am.
What grade did you drop out in?
8th grade.
How do you get to drop out in the 8th grade? Help me understand that.
I was 16 in the 8th grade. I'd been held back a year,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see, I started taking GED in the 8th grade, and I never finished my GED during that year. And,
Why not?
but I already had a good job. I was making plenty of money, and where I worked,
What kind of job did you have?
we were laying fiber optic cable across country, and it was paying really well. And so I figured I was pretty much set. And then I had ties in the construction industry, and so I always had a pretty good income.
What about when this crime occurred? Were you employed?
Yes, ma'am. Well, no, ma'am. When the rape occurred, I was not employed. I was
What
at
happened to
home.
your job?
I had been working in Kansas City. I had gotten laid off, and I was waiting on another job to start. And it was a pretty long period between. And I just hadn't found any employment, and I felt pretty sure that I was about to make that next job. I was probably about a month away from going to work. I'd only been home a few months and drawing unemployment.
So tell me about alcohol and drug use.
At about the last 3 years, I did do drugs. I never have had a problem with alcohol abuse.
What kind of drugs were you using?
I took pain pills, and
When and why did you start taking pain pills?
really, I had a really bad headache. One time I was real nauseous, had a bad migraine, and a friend of mine at work was always offering them to me, and I'd never taken them, but that day I just decided to try it, 'cause I was hurting pretty bad.
So what did you take?
Lower tab.
Okay. And how did that turn it to an addiction?
It took a long time. At first, you know, it made my headache go away, made me feel better pretty much instantly. And I noticed that I felt good. And, you know, over time, I would get one here and there. And probably over a period of about 3 to 4 years, finally I ended up where I was taking maybe 8 or 9 of them a day. And, you know, they helped me get through the day. They helped me feel better about myself. And I thought that that was what I needed. And I don't feel that way anymore.
Have you taken substance abuse programs during your incarceration?
I attended AA meetings for about 6 months when I was
How
first.
long ago?
That has been about 4.5 years ago.
So when you first got incarcerated is when you got in AA.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you stop? Why didn't you continue?
I got shipped from that facility, and where I got shipped to, we didn't have any AA classes, and there were no drug programs.
What about where you are now?
They do have a drug program now. I haven't enrolled in it because I've been clean for 5.5 years, and I don't feel
Have
like
you really, I mean, when you say clean, you know, access is limited. You're in a controlled environment.
I have had the availability of drugs, and I haven't done them. I don't want to do them. I don't feel
So,
like I need them.
so let me ask you this, if you were to get released from jail, which, oh, by the way, regardless of what happens here this morning, you will be released on June 14th of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, a little more than 4 months, you'll be out anyway.
We'll
So
turn-
what is your plan if you're released, when you're released, to maintain sobriety?
I will return to our local AA classes. The administrator of these classes is a close friend of my family's, and I will hold myself accountable, but I would like to attend those classes and have him also in my life because he's very particular, and I know that I will be held accountable, and I will have a support group that I can discuss any issues that I might have with. Even though I feel like I don't want to do drugs anymore, I don't crave them, I don't think that that's the right thing for my life. I believe that a strong support group and someone that is going to hold you accountable is necessary. I think it has to be.
Do you have any employment opportunities already in place?
Yes, ma'am. My cousin is here with us today. He works at a business called Monroe Mac. They do repairs on semi trucks and welding and fabrication as well. And he has agreed to employ me on my release. I also have other family members that work at a steel fab, which is a pretty large business in our town, one of the higher paying businesses. They also have agreed to employ me. I have another family member who owns a lot of farmland, and he has agreed to employ me as well. And if I need part-time work, I have another friend of the family's who also has a mechanic shop. And he's willing to
And where are we talking about? What city?
West Carroll Parish, and I can't remember which parish Monroe, Louisiana is in.
Washington.
Washington, I guess, ma'am.
And the residence where you'll be living, where is that located?
West Carroll Parish.
Did you and the victim in this case have any children together?
No, ma'am. I thought we had a child together, but it turned out that after DNA test, after I'd been incarcerated, the
So you
child,
don't have a child with him.
no, ma'am.
So there's actually no reason for you to be in contact with her. Is that correct?
Absolutely no reason at all.
Have you ever had any kind of domestic violence programs?
No, ma'am. I was under the belief that I would be mandated to attend domestic violence programs in Rayville, Louisiana after I was released.
And who told you that? Why did you think that?
We had a hearing on a restraining order at the beginning of my incarceration, and the judge's assistant told me that she was going to recommend that I be mandated to attend these hearings, to attend these programs once I was released.
And do you think it's important for you to understand your tendency towards domestic violence?
Absolutely.
Deputy Holloman, I know you're the technology officer, so I don't know if you can give us any information about Mr. Bonette.
Since he's been here, I have not heard any ill of the man. He has managed to hold down 2 separate jobs at some point in time in the facility after he had cleared his classes, however far along he had gone. He had worked in our kitchen at one point, and for the last 4 or 5 months at least, he's been working under Sergeant Wilson as the property orderly. So he helps her in maintaining jail property kept in order.
And are you aware of what kind of substance abuse classes or AA meetings that are available at your facility?
We have the Steve Hall program, and we have the opioid roar program as far as drug classes go.
What was that last thing?
There's the roar program.
What is that?
It's for opioid addiction.
I see.
They have to be screened and qualify for it.
And
Now-
how long does that program typically last?
I don't know about roar. The Steve Hall one I want to say is 9 months to a
Right,
year.
6 to 9 months, but he only has about 4 months left.
Right. As far as AA goes, we haven't had AA since COVID locked down a lot of the personnel that used to come and visit and talk to the men.
All right, thank you, Deputy Holloman. Mr. Marabella, that's all I have.
I see that there are no further questions. We will now hear from our speakers. We will start with Ms. Pam Lazare, mother.
Ms. Lazare, if you will unmute your microphone and tell us who you are and tell us what you'd like us to know about your son.
Yes, my name is Pam Mazier. I'm the mother of Billy Bonette. I just wanted to confirm that he will be living at my residence here in Oak Grove, Louisiana, West Carroll Parish, with myself and his daughter. She is 15 now. And that I feel that he will not be a reoffender. He's a, has been working, like he said, since the age of 16. And he was employed, up until this circumstances come up. And I just feel that, he does have remorse over the whole situation. And like I said, that there would be no more contact between the two of them. She's, moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, and that he's ready to go on with his life, and that he has changed. I mean, for the better, and that I just hope that he can be released and get started back with his life again. And
Thank you very much, Ms. Lazare. We appreciate your comments.
Our next participant is Mr. Jeffrey Bonette, who's a cousin.
Mr. Bonette, if you'll unmute your microphone and tell us what you'd like us to know about your cousin.
Yes, sir. I've known Billy for the better part of 40 years, and he's never really been a troublemaker. And it's always more to these charges than what just the charge is. And I think he spent most of his time, and he's done well. Just hearing from him and everything that's going on. And I think everybody deserves a second chance. And I've worked with him all my life, and I've never really seen him in any trouble other than these few cases here. And we have unemployment, me and another good friend of mine, if he wants it. And I just, when he gets out, and I wanted him to know that we'll fully support him any which way he wants, And that's all I had to say.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Bonette. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Marabella, that is all of our speakers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bonette, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
Yes, sir. I've taken responsibility for what I've done, and taking responsibility means that I have to know what it is that I'm responsible for. And I know that in cases like this, there can be significant damage to the victim. There can be emotional damage. They can have relationship phobias. I mean, it can be pretty serious, and it can be long term. And when I think about this, I think about my own daughter. She's 15. What if somebody hurt her like that? What if, what if she couldn't develop healthy relationships with other people, relationships that are essential to our survival? And, how would that feel for me to have to live the rest of my life, seeing my own child go through something like that, unable to successfully bond and share affection with other people, having deep-rooted insecurities, things like that. And I have to imagine that maybe it may be that way for my wife. It could be that way for her family. So I can't, I wish I could take that back, but I can't. So what I can do is hold myself accountable for that. And by holding myself accountable, I take into careful consideration how I treat other people, because everything that I do has an impact on somebody else's life around me, whether it's family, whether it's friends, people that I know. And I don't want to be the person that I don't want to have to regret something else like this. I don't want to hurt other people. I don't want to be that person. And I thank you all for your time and your consideration in this matter. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonette. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Bonnet, when I first reviewed your case and I looked at the facts, which were pretty bad, and I looked at the fact that you're going to get out in any event on June 14th of 2020, my initial impulse was simply to deny and let it expire and let you get out on a good time. But as I talk to you, I feel like you really do want to deal with the issues that led you to commit this crime, as well as your substance abuse issues. So my vote today would be to grant your early release with the condition that you have no contact with Ms. Freeland. You're to enroll in and complete a 26-week domestic violence program. I think that would be important for you, because what that program does is it helps you understand what it is about you that causes you to have this insecurity and causes you to act out in that way. And so it's beneficial to you to complete a 26-week domestic violence prevention program, and that you attend at least 2 AA or NA meetings per week for the duration of your supervision. So that's my vote today, Mr. Bonnet.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Wise?
You know, Billy, as I was sitting here, I saw your mother and Jeffrey Bonette there you'd be working with. I was just thinking, Oak Grove, Louisiana, man, there's choices you got to make in life. As I was reading your file last night, and I was going through it mostly during the time I was listening to y'all and going through your case. You got to make better choices. You got family and people who love you and care about you. And you need to think about that for a long time. Today, I'm going to be voting the same as Ms. Bonnie. I'm going to vote to grant with the same condition stated as Ms. Bonnie. But make some better choices. You hear me?
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Bonnet, my vote is going to be likewise the same. I agree with all of the things that Ms. Jackson has said. My initial vote was going to be to simply deny you because of your full-term date, but I think her suggestions are well taken. So my vote is going to be the same as hers. Your parole is going to be granted with the following conditions: that you have no contact whatsoever with Ms. Freeland, who was the victim in this case, that you enroll in and complete a 26 DBOP, domestic violence program, that you obtain a substance abuse evaluation, and you do 2 AA meetings per week for the duration of your parole. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
You have 3 votes to grant your parole. Your parole has been granted. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank y'all very much.
I don't know how much I have to add to this. There's no documentation to go over. There's no details. I think what we can look at is that he got a 5-year sentence or 6-year sentence in which it looks like he served almost all of it. So they're married. He invites her over for her to get some of her stuff. They're going through a divorce, and then he does this act. They point out one other time that something had happened, and he said, "Oh, it was only a second. Like I hit her once, and that was, this could be like one of those relationships where they just bring the worst out of each other." We had a glimpse of where it seemed that he thought that he had a child with her, and it turned out after they had issued a DNA test while he's locked up, he finds out that it's not his child. And you never know. You can't take things that are said at these hearings as what's the word I'm looking for? The full truth. But if that was the case, I mean, I think that's a hint that it was just a totally ridiculous relationship, which of course gives him absolutely zero right to do what he did, which is just an act of rage and control to do that. And it's just stupid. Now he's a registered offender for life, and he is out as tier 3. I think the board did. It was interesting. If you look at what the board did here, they worded it in a way really to which is quite clever, because his life would have been much easier if he had not even applied for parole. He would get out. He wouldn't have stipulations. He can go on with his life. Now what they did is he's getting out just a few months earlier, and he's got a lot of stuff he has to do. And the parole board and the way that Miss Bonnie Jackson worded it was very clever. I was going to let you, but I think you've done well. So I'm going to, under these stipulations. It was quite interesting. And sometimes they do that and sometimes they don't. It's hard to know when and why they do make those choices. I'm going to jump into another hearing. Now, here's the interesting thing. It's going to be a double hearing. The first hearing, it's review only. So it's what they were doing in the beginning of COVID in some cases. So Mr. O'Shea just gives an overview because he interviews the inmate. But then we're going to jump to part 2 where we actually get to see the inmate in action for his second hearing. So thank you, Richard, for putting those together. And with that, let's.
The first case is Joey Folse. In this case is for Mr. Alvin Roche, Joey Folse, DOC number 380565, fourth class offender, parole eligibility date 7/24/2021, good time date 4/9/2022, full term 4/24/2034, 17 years on a theft of 25,000 or more charge. Mr. Alvin Roche, would you like to?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear from his family first.
That's what I was. Yep, that'll be. We'll hear from all folks involved, and then you can present your case. So we'll hear from Miss Joanne Wright. Go ahead, Miss Wright. You can you got to take your mute off. You have to take your mute off, and then we'll hear from you.
Okay, I
Okay,
got it now.
Go
You hear me
ahead.
now? Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm the mother of Joey Folse. I know he's been incarcerated for about 4 years now, and you know, he's a really good person, and thinking coming home now will be the best thing for him. Be home with his family. My husband and I have we go called right cleaning service. We go around, we clean parking lots, we cut the grass, do whatever we can, and he'll have a job with him when he come home. And he have a place to live. And to be home, we miss him. We would like for him to be home with his family, with his children, help, be in their lives and in all our lives. And that's what we really would like him to come home now. I know he's been in there a while. He hasn't gotten in anything like that. So really would love for him to come home now and be with the family because things are happening so much. His father died.
All right, I think she dropped, but we heard the gist of the support there, and he's got a job and have a place to come. So, okay, well now we'll hear from Miss Sierra Clark.
Hi, I'm here in Terrebonne Parish. We oppose the defendant being released on parole. Mr. Ernie, our prosecutor who handled the case, also submitted a letter in regards to his position as well, in which he opposes as well.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the speakers who's in support and the victim who is opposed. I interviewed Mr. Folse last week, and if I had to make one statement to sum up Mr. Folse, he is very loquacious, and he will try to talk himself out of any conceivable situation he gets into. He is a talker, and he had a lot to say. Mr. Folse's parole date is July 24th, 2021. His good time date is April 9th, 2022. And his full term date is April 24th, 2034. And I say this to the victims who logged on to this Zoom conference. No matter what happens today, he has a good time date on April 9th, 2022, and he will be released on good time according to the revised statutes of the state of Louisiana. Mr. Folse is a fourth felony offender. As of April of this year, he would have served 4 years of a 17-year sentence. We have multiple victims in opposition. Matter of fact, the victims are adamantly opposed to any release, and they are asking for restitution. And that will be left up to the parole officer in the courts, but the victims are requiring that he does pay restitution. He has a moderate risk assessment score, which tells us that he has a moderate chance of reoffending. He has his high set degree in September of 2019, and I'll run down a list of some of his other programs. He's written a victim accountability letter, personal development, problem solving, anger management, victim awareness, employment skills, money management, reentry, partners in parenting, and understanding and reducing anger feelings. He said his health is good. He takes one medication a day for high blood pressure. He is not on work status. And he said he had no mental health issues. He is he works in the kitchen. He's a member of the kitchen staff. And I asked him, what did he do in the kitchen? He said he's a car pusher. I said, what is a car pusher? He collects the meals in the kitchen, put them on a cart, and he delivers the meals to the other offenders. If released, he said he would like to go to work in Bingham's shipyard. I think he had that job prior to his incarceration. He's in minimum custody. He has no disciplinary write-ups this incarceration, and he has very strong opposition from law enforcement and the DA's office. Matter of fact, the DA's office wrote a very strong letter of opposition. If released, he will be living with his mother, Ms. Joanne Wright, in Thibodaux, Louisiana. He'll be living with his mother and his stepfather. He has no active retainers, and he does have good family support along with his mother, stepfather. He has a son and grandparents. Matter of fact, his son and his grandparents were opposed, and they thought he was not ready to be released. He had positive remarks by the staff at Carwell. Lieutenant Tatum, who facilitated the interview, said he had nothing but positive remarks about Mr. Folse. I asked him what kind of transportation he would have for office visits with his parole officer, doctor's appointments, and work. He said that he could use his fiance's car until he had a chance to purchase a vehicle. And because of his offenses, I asked whether his fiance had children living in the home, and he said there were no children under the age of 18. I asked him about his goals. His short-term goal is to be reunited with his family, start working on the career at the shipyard, and become a productive member of society. His long-term goals, he wants to pay all his restitution first, then he wants to purchase a home for his family and become a supervisor at the shipyard and support his family in every way possible and build up a good retirement fund for me and my partner. I asked him about barriers to his supervision. Told him he was a 4th felony offender. He had a terrible supervision record. How would he handle supervision this time? He simply said, there's no barriers. I just have to follow all the conditions of my parole supervision. His plan for success. My plan for success is simple. Stop thinking about myself first and start thinking about my family and my community. Hard work, stay focused, seek advice from the experts when needed, and stay busy. I had a pretty fair interview with Mr. Folse when I could get a word in edgewise, because he was a talker. Victims are adamantly opposed. A part of his family is opposed to his release. There's opposition from the DA's office, extensive criminal background with 17 adult arrests, a 4th felony offender, a history of violence, a history of fraud charges, and a history of crimes against the elderly. I think in this case, he volunteered to put air in an elderly man's tire and claimed that the air mechanism exploded, caught him in the face. And I think when it's all done, he owes in the neighborhood of $220,000 restitution, because that's how much he took the victim for. My recommendation is, I don't really feel comfortable with releasing this offender. He has a history of violence. He has a history of fraud charges, history of crimes against the elderly, and he is a registered sex offender from a prior conviction. So my recommendation is that we deny his request based upon multiple victims, opposition from law enforcement, poor supervision history, extensive criminal background, and he does have a moderate risk assessment, which tells us that he has a moderate chance of reoffending. That concludes my report.
All right, Ms. Wise, would you like to prepare to vote?
Yes, I'm prepared to vote. Excellent report, Mr. Roche. I concur. My vote is the same for the same reason. And of particular concern to me was that he was on supervision for the same nature of offense, and he committed it again. Thank you, sir. My vote is to deny.
2 votes to deny, some votes to deny your parole as parole based on law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, moderate tiger score. 3 votes to deny, parole's been denied. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to fast forward almost a year to the date for the in-person hearing. And with that, let's jump in.
Been classified as a fourth felony offender, offense theft of $25,000 or more. Sentencing date, July 16, 2018. Sentenced to a total of 17 years. Parole date, July 24th, 2021. Good time, April 9th, 2022. Full term, April 24th, 2034. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Wise.
You know, Joey, as I look over your files here, it's terrible. Joey, let me tell you something. Life's simple or can be simpler, but you can't be running around stealing stuff. It's just been an ongoing thing. You're a fourth offender. You know, the theft of a disabled person. I have a problem with that. I want you to know.
Yes, sir.
You got anything to say about that?
Yes, sir. I take full responsibility of my actions. It's just I had an addiction. I had an addiction, a pill addiction. I take full responsibility of my actions.
You're a fourth class offender. Of all the rest you've had, I've never seen a drug charge on it. Back in 2014, I see where you obtained fraud and then back in, let me see, it's exploring the infirm and things like that. But one of the things I see an armed robbery with violence, and you had I was looking here back in 2007, you were charged with aggravated rape. Indecent behavior with a juvenile subject was sentenced to 2 years, but you pled guilty to the indecent behavior with a juvenile. First, you were charged with aggravated rape. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that just goes over another theft. Back in 2007, resisting an officer fugitive. That was during the aggravated rape. Then they amended it. And then you had a felony theft back in 2007. And it's just been ongoing things, just several. I don't know. What do you think? You said the problem's been pills.
Yes, sir. 2001, I got divorced and working offshore and got hurt, and I started on pain medication. And ever since I started on pain medication, my life has went down.
Joey, don't blame it on pills. Back in 1997, you were simple burglaries. In 97, a theft by fraud. Some of the same kind of crime. Cardinal knowledge of a juvenile, contributing links to the juvenile. That was in 98. It's not a year went by that you hadn't been in trouble on some of the things. And you said it started on pills back in 2001. All these charges way before 01.
Yes, sir.
What kind of programs you in at this time?
I couldn't hear you, sir.
What programs are you in at this time?
Oh, I was in anger management, parenting, risk management. I completed my high set.
What about any sex offender classes? You ever took any sex offender classes ever before?
Not in jail, sir.
Have you ever took any before?
No, sir, not in jail. Not while
okay. Well, did you take any outside on the streets?
Yes, sir.
What did you take?
I had to go to sex classes every month.
Okay. Have you taken any long-term drug classes since you've been incarcerated?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I took a drug.
What drug class?
It was just a primary class that they had over here. If you voluntarily went out, you can participate in the class, and that's what I did. It wasn't
Joey,
a
you're a young man. If you don't get it together, how long you been incarcerated on this charge?
going on 5 years.
5 years. What's the longest you ever been incarcerated?
5 years, sir.
5 years is the longest you ever been incarcerated.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think you need some kind of help, but I don't know. You're a fourth offender, and I'm telling you, it's a problem for me when someone disabled or old person or a kid or anything taking advantage of them. You know, that's a big problem. How much money did you take from that disabled person?
It was a settlement of $100,000. It was a settlement, and they just say I just kept asking for too much money. It was an accident, and it was a settlement.
Okay.
I just kept asking for money, sir.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Marabella?
Warden, can you tell us anything about Mr. Folse? There's someone there with you?
I'm here. He is currently working in the kitchen. He is our head line cook. He doesn't have any disciplinary issues. He has asked me for help with a MAT post-release plan for substance abuse. And overall, he doesn't give us any problems or have any issues with him.
Okay. Mr. Folse, you were denied parole, it looks like back in March of last year. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What have you done, or what programs have you done or taken, or what have you done since then? It looks like it was your criminal history and maybe you hadn't done enough things. So what have you done since then, since March the 11th of 2021, that we might be able to look at?
I couldn't get in any more programs because they said I completed every program there was to take, sir. I was just working in the kitchen, just been working.
And what are your drugs of choice? I mean, you indicated to Mr. Wise that drugs were a problem. You know, it looks like they're trying to perhaps put you in some sort of a medical assistant program for your drugs. What were your drugs of choice?
Pain pills.
And what were you on? What pain pills were you using?
Started on Lortab, and I was on the Roxas pill.
Okay. And how often were you using them?
Every day for every 4 hours.
Okay. For how long?
Been taking pills since 2001, sir. Since 2001.
Is the STAR program available to Warden? Do y'all have the STAR program there? Is that a possibility for him?
I'm the transition specialist here. We do not have the STAR program at this facility. The only substance abuse that we have available is Louisiana Risk Management.
Okay.
Mr. Marabella,
Yes.
his good time date is April 9th of this year.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Folse,
Yes, ma'am.
you made a bogus allegation to this man that he had injured you in an accident, which was not true. You pressured him until you took over $140,000 of this man's money. You sit here today and say it was a settlement. It was not a settlement. You coerced this man that you knew was mentally disabled into giving you $141,710 of his money. What did you do with $1,000?
I was gambling, ma'am. I gambled and popped pills.
$141,000 worth, Mr. Folse?
Yes, ma'am.
So he didn't get a dime of it back?
Can I say something, ma'am?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I take full responsibility of my actions.
No, you
Ma'am?
don't, because you called it a settlement. It was extortion. But there's nothing I can do about it because you're going to get out of jail on April 9th of this year anyway. I think you should be in there a lot longer because you're a predator. You're a con man and you're a predator. And what you did to this man was inexcusable. And you really should be ashamed of yourself. And I don't know that this little less than 5 years has had a lot of impact on you because you're still scamming. But I just want you to know what you did was a really terrible thing. And I hope you don't prey on any other helpless victims. That's all I have, Mr. Folse.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there any speakers?
Yes, his mother.
Okay.
Yes, we have Miss Joanne Wright.
Ms. Wright, if you would unmute your microphone and introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about your son.
Yes, sir. My name is Joanne Wright, the mother of Joy Folse. Yes, he has made some bad choices in his life. Am I proud of him for that? No, I'm not. But I know in my heart that he's been rehabilitated. He missed so much while he was in there. His father died, children all growing up, and I really think that he has learned his lesson, that he needs, we all make mistakes and bad choices. I got to give him that, bad choices. But I know as he gotten older in there, just lost so much time. And I'm praying that when he get out of there, he gonna help somebody. He sees some needs that needs to be met, and he take them under their wing and help somebody. He could take another young man under his wing, tell them what he been through, and not to go down that road. I want him to get out there and tell his son what he been through, what he's done, and not to go down that road. So that's my prayer, is that he would get out there, be rehabilitated, because he's been up in jail, not getting no help. He needs to get some kind of help to be able to teach him some kind of, I know he's 44, teach some kind of skills, how to live and how to do the right thing. And I truly believe that he's going to do that this time. I know I know what the lady said. I understand all what she said, and I believe that, but I know he can do it. So just have to get out there and just help somebody. Show him not to go down that road where he went down, and keep him from going into jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail. Because that's been a terrible thing. And and I love him, and we want him to come home. So I'm praying, and my heart, I truly believe he has been rehabilitated. He needs to get help with those pills. He should have got that while he was in there. But there was no help. We tried and tried and tried. I called everywhere I could call. Nobody wanted to reach out and give him help. And I tried. We called everywhere to try to get. We kept getting turned down. And we tried. He reached out, and I reached out. So I really believe in my heart he's gonna come out there and do the right thing and just help somebody else along the way. Teach some young man, tell him what he's been through, not to go down the road he went through. And teach his children, which you're grown now, not to go down that road. And to be out there because we love him and want him to come out there and do the right thing, which I truly believe he's gonna do the right thing. And I know he made bad choices. I understand that. And I'm not gonna condemn he didn't make bad choices, but I know that he can do it. And I just pray that, that y'all give him this chance and opportunity to get out there and prove that he can do it. We just need some help. Try to get some programs while you're here. You can help somebody. You can get some programs while you're here. It's rehabilitated. I was hoping they could have got that program in there with the drugs and tried. Nobody wanted to help. We reached out to everybody. Everybody turned us down. Nobody wanted to do nothing. So we hope to get out there. He's gonna be a better person. He help somebody else along with it. That's my prayer for him, that he gets out of there, be rehabilitated, get out there and start working and be productive in the world. Instead of doing the wrong thing, do the right thing, make better choices. Because in my heart, I know he can do it. He's a good person. He just needs to make better choices. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Folse, is there anything you'd like to say before we vote?
I just want to say that I don't want to be a person that's going to die in jail. I want to just go home and live a normal life. If I have to start off working at a Burger King, I'm going to do that because the only person that's in charge of my life is me. So I have to make better choices in life. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Folse. Is the panel ready to vote? Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna be voting to deny. You got poor supervision, your criminal history, you need more programs. And I'm telling you, that's a very bad thing you did there. And you have an out date in April of this year. Thank you.
Ms. Jackson? Thank you, Mr. Wise.
Likewise, my vote is to deny, based on the proximity of his quit time date.
Mr. Folse, my vote likewise is to deny. If in fact you have a drug problem, I hope that at least in the next couple of months while you're there, that you will take advantage of any programs or any suggestions that they're making for you, especially with this medical assisted issue with your drugs if you have a problem. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself right back in prison. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Marabella, I believe we're ready.
Wow, this guy is he is, I think, one of the worst. And I'll get into even why. I mean, he is a hardened life criminal who, by the way, his mother who came and spoke for him, she is alleged to be heavily involved in the crimes with him. If you can imagine that. And not only that, but he has actually been charged with taking people's lives. But then the DA has pulled those charges. The list goes on and on and on. And I'll go over that with you. Thank you, Rich, for sharing the info. But to imagine that he's getting out anyways in good time is terrifying, because he is a scary criminal. And in my opinion, it starts with the DA giving him a little slap on the wrist. He's charged with aggravated on a child, right? And then they decide to drop it. They just drop it. They drop it to where he takes the guilty plea from aggravated, where you can get, I think 40 or 50 years, if not more. And he gets 2 years. Because who cares about a child? Who cares about a child? How many charges against children has he had? I thought I heard multiple. This is a vicious villain. I can't share the screen because for whatever reason they decided to share their address like 5 times on this document. And YouTube is strange with that. Even if it's an old address that's 20 years old and just not worth it. So I'll just let you know that it says that he was arrested after allegedly staging several auto accidents in the area to collect insurance money. State police said they responded to a complaint, and an investigation revealed that several people were involved in an insurance fraud ring. He was charged with 5 counts of theft by fraud, 1 count of attempted theft by fraud, blah, blah, blah. Louisiana State Police Insurance Fraud Unit alleges he was regularly causing automobile accidents or staging them to collect money from insurance companies. Police said he was involved in 24 known crashes in and around the area. He has been causing or allowing his vehicle to be involved in low-speed traffic crashes. His mother has also been accused of participating in the ring, state police said. She was charged with 3 counts of theft by fraud, 3 counts of insurance fraud, 1 count of first-degree injuring public records by filing false reports. Police allege that she would provide her son with older vehicles so he could use them in the staged crashes. Yep. And this just seems to be one of the many 34 frauds. I think they were talking about another fraud where he was helping an older man with a tire thing and it exploded. And then he got $100-something thousand, $130,000 from him. I mean, he has literally been just doing whatever it is he wanted. And his mother gets up and speaks. That was great. I wish someone could have pointed out. And he's a registered offender. Like, you can't make that stuff up, right? Unbelievable. And he pled to indecent behavior with a juvenile in 2008 when it was aggravated. Then, this also lists the address, so I can't, but it was technology, so I'll give you a glimpse. Written in 2012. Then I'll have to hide it again. The murder arrest ends on a long wait. See, here's the bar owner. This is the son. He's saying, or his father. I'm not quite sure. What happened in this case? So they accused our very nice young man here, who's great. We just need some more programs, right? To go work at Burger King. Yeah, right. Like he's going to go work there. So he was arrested Thursday, right? In connection with the 2006 shooting death of a bar owner and married father of 4. He's accused of killing Bruce 41, owner of the Halftime Lounge on May 22nd near William Henderson Street home. Police said that the robbery is the possible motive. Folse, the only person to be charged in connection with William's death, was booked on 1 count of first degree. If a conviction, he faced mandatory life in prison. Brian Williams said his family long suspected Folse was involved, but declined to elaborate, citing ongoing nature of the investigation. He wasn't sure if his brother knew Folse. 2 were acquaintances. According to Folse, according to Thomas, according to Williams was shot and could not have been the shooter. The information led to his arrest based on jailhouse informant who was working off his own charges. That's the worst kind of informant. In addition, the investigation details likely made available later this week. Folse was charged with attempted robbery, conspiracy to commit robbery in connection with the death. And charges unrelated, he was also booked on March 11, 2006 armed robbery, May 14, 2006 armed robbery after Why is this guy still out? Over the past 13 years, he'd been convicted 3 counts of theft, carnal knowledge of a juvenile, burglary. Why is he still out? Why is he getting, it's insane. But then, sadly, you fast forward and to 2006, and the grand jury said there was not enough evidence to this. I can share. Okay, this I can share. And it says that the grand jury said there wasn't enough evidence to indict him. So the 34-year-old was released on Tuesday's decision by the grand jury for killing the 26-year-old man. Another man booked in the case. But yeah, I mean, we don't know. Obviously innocent until proven guilty, but this guy keeps getting away with stuff. It seems, I mean, he did have a 17-year sentence, so they did lock him away for quite some time, but just talk about someone that is just bringing down civilization with, all of these crimes. And they could have stopped it right there if they got him for the juvenile charge, but no, that's just a child, so who cares? Yeah, you might not believe it if you didn't see it, but here it is, right here. And with that, I'll let you go.
Offense, first-degree robbery. Sentencing date, February 26, 2002. Sentenced to a total of 30 years. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, August 19, 2030. Full term, February 15, 2031. Is this information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good morning, Miss McKenzie. How are you doing today?
All right.
That's good. You a little nervous?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want you to relax, okay?
All right.
Your case has been assigned to me, and I'm going to start the questioning. First of all, how old are you?
I'm 59.
How much time have you actually served on your sentence?
21 years.
And this was a robbery. You ended up pleading guilty to first-degree robbery, and you received a 30-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, as I was reading what happened, if this wasn't such a serious offense, it almost would have sounded like a comedy movie. You and April Wright.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Wright had given up a child for adoption.
Yes, ma'am.
And about a month later, you and Miss Wright went to the adoption agency where
Yes.
she had given her child, and threatened her, and then forced her to write a $10,000 check on the agency's account. You took that check to a check cashing place, and when they called to verify the validity of the check, you had the victim's cell phone, and when they called, you're the one that answered the phone and told them that the check was good. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How in the world did you become involved in this? How did you even know April Wright, and how did you get involved in this?
Well, I met her in jail. I was in jail on a violation charge, and I met her in jail. And when we got out, we became friends.
Okay, but how does that turn into going and robbing the lady at the adoption agency?
Well, she stated that the lady owed her extra money, and I went along with her when I shouldn't. And
Okay.
I didn't really know Miss Margaret. And
Okay, all right. So you're a fourth offender?
yes, ma'am.
Tell me what your prior convictions have been for.
My first conviction was armed robbery. Armed robbery
What year was that?
in 1990,
How old were you then?
28.
And it was a bank, did you say it was a bank robbery?
No, ma'am.
It was an armed robbery.
Yeah,
How much? Go ahead. I don't need the details of that so much, but how much time did you get on that charge?
5 years.
And then you paroled out,
Yes, ma'am.
and that parole was revoked?
When I got out, yes, my parole was revoked. I caught
Was that because you got another charge?
No, ma'am. That parole was revoked after I caught the second charge.
That's what I mean. So what was the
Yeah.
second charge?
Possession of stolen things.
Okay. And you got out on that one on parole?
Yes, ma'am. They ran
And
my
that-
time with.
And that parole was revoked?
Yes, ma'am.
And what caused that parole to be revoked?
I had possession of stolen things in my possession.
So you were convicted 2 times of possession of stolen things?
No, ma'am, once.
Okay, so when you went to jail on the illegal possession of stolen things and you paroled out.
Yes, ma'am.
And why did that parole get revoked?
Because they charged me with the crime.
The crime that you're in jail for now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, what crime?
Theft.
Okay. And then you went to jail on the theft.
Yes, ma'am. And I got out.
And you got this charge that you're in jail for now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was going on with you, Miss McKenzie? Why were you having such a hard time complying with parole, and were you on drugs? Tell me what was going on with you?
Well, when I had lost my mom, I felt like I just didn't have no reason to just do anything positive with my life. I just gave up, started using drugs and alcohol,
What kind of drugs were you on?
crack,
Okay.
crack
Do
cocaine.
you have any
and,
convictions? Do you have any convictions for drug charges?
yes, I have one possession
And
charge.
what was that for? Of cocaine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And
what did you use besides cocaine? What other substances were you on besides cocaine?
nothing.
What about
Alcohol.
Okay, tell me about your drinking.
I drank every day.
What'd you like to drink?
Beer.
Okay.
And I just gave up. I felt like I had nothing to live for. My mama was gone, but I had kids, and I just.
How many kids?
2 at the time.
How many do you have now?
3.
And how old are your kids?
My daughter is 45. My son is 42, and my baby is 30.
Okay. All right, well, let's kind of move forward. I see that you have about 300 days of credit for programs that you've taken.
Yes, ma'am.
You've taken Living in Balance, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid Your Age.
Yes, ma'am.
Risk Management 1 and 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Pre-release.
Yes, ma'am.
You've gotten your GED.
Yes, ma'am.
You've written or you're working on your victim accountability letter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have certification in horticulture.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me about your substance abuse programming. What substance abuse treatment have you had, and what did you learn from those programs?
I've learned is that
first, what programs did you take that helped you address your substance abuse issues?
Substance abuse, Living in Balance.
Okay. So tell me what you learned from those programs.
I've learned if you're smart enough and you are willing to change your life and give back what you have learned in the class.
Okay, I'm trying to find out what did you learn in the class?
I've learned that.
Tell me something that you've learned that would help you when you get out, not to go back to using drugs.
Classes.
Okay, well, tell me what the classes taught you.
It taught me that I was on the wrong track in my life, that I needed help, from the drugs that I was in. It helped me to realize that I can be drug-free.
How did
by going to meetings?
They teach you to help you be drug-free?
By going to meetings, getting a sponsor.
Is that something you think is important?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
Why?
Because I don't want to go back to that life I once had. I done had enough. I'm tired of living. I'm tired of chasing a ghost, ma'am. I'm tired of just living a life it's empty. I would not make it if I don't have someone that's gonna help me to realize that I do need help.
Are you a drug addict?
I don't want to do drugs. Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
a drug addict?
I'm a recovering drug addict. Yes,
well,
ma'am.
What does that mean to you when you say a recovering drug addict? What does that mean to you?
It means that I can live life without drugs. I can be happy without drugs. I can give back.
If you do what?
Stay on the right track, go to meetings, get me a sponsor, have somebody positive in my life that I know that will keep me on the right track and not to turn to drugs or alcohol.
Okay. You got your GED. What year did you get your GED?
In 2016.
Okay. How you feel about that?
I was overwhelming. I was real happy.
Okay. How far did you go in school on the outside?
I went to the 11th grade and I had got pregnant.
Okay. I see that you are level 4 in the mental health evaluation, that you see a mental health staff member every 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your diagnosis?
Depression.
Okay.
Depression and anxiety.
Are you taking medication for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what's your job at the prison?
Please forgive me.
That's okay.
I'm a cook.
Okay. How long have you been a cook?
Since 16.
Okay. Have you done anything with your horticulture certification?
No, once we graduated, that's when the pandemic showed up.
I see. I see. I show that in the entire time that you've been incarcerated, you only had one write-up.
Yes, ma'am.
In 21 years, you've only had one write-up.
Yes, ma'am, here in St. Gabriel.
Okay. And that was for a 30M. Do you remember what that was about?
Yes, ma'am. I had my paperwork in possession of another inmate property.
Okay. And you got written up for that?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your punishment?
Well, they gave me 30 days and they suspended sentence.
Okay. And since then you had no other write-up?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me about your transition plan. I see Ms. Dowden on the screen. What is your plan if you were to be successful today? Where would you go? Where would you live? And what kind of employment do you have lined up?
Well, I want to go to the Louisiana Prison Project because I just don't want to.
The prison project. You're already in the Louisiana prison.
Okay. I tell you, I was nervous. Okay, let me breathe.
Okay. Louisiana Parole Project?
Yes, ma'am, that's it.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to just, that's how I kept coming back to jail back in the past. I get out of jail instead of going and try to find some help for myself, knowing that if I go back out there, I'll be back going to the same old things, drugs and drinking. And that I do not want. I have learned these 21 years I've been locked up that I can't be somebody positive in somebody else's life. If I take my time, do the right thing, stay with positive people, and this project will help me just not just throw myself away again. And I think I can learn a lot. And I want to give back to let people know that there is another way.
Okay, well, okay, so you would stay with the Parole Project for whatever period of time you are allowed.
Allow me to.
But then what? Where do you have family? Where would you go and live?
I have a sister. Her name Janet. She has already made preparations. She know I want to go to
where does she live?
In Shreveport.
Okay.
She know I want to go to the project before, because they give her time. She says she's looking for another apartment that's 3, because her and my nephew live in a 2-bedroom. And she feels it's best that I do go to this project till she can get another project apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And
What kind of work do you think you'll be able to do in Shreveport?
I will apply jobs at McDonald's, Burger King, any food restaurants. Cause I love cooking.
Okay.
I love.
I'm not sure it's real cooking at McDonald's.
I know. But any restaurant where there is cooking, you know, food preparing, I will put applications in, and I know that this project will help me get me situated on what I can get to keep me on track.
The victim indicated that she's not opposed to your being released.
Thank you. May I say something?
You can.
I've been waiting 21 years to ask Miss Margaret to please forgive me, because I didn't have to do what I did to her. And I feel so bad that I did this to the lady and she hadn't done anything to me. And I just want her to say, I'm so sorry that I did that. And I know I shouldn't have done what I done. But the word of God also told me that I have to ask for forgiveness in order for me to have peace within my life. And I really want Miss Margaret and her family members to please forgive me for my action, because I take full responsibility for it. I did something I didn't even have to do. I didn't even know the lady. I was just being a follower. That's what I'm saying. I was being a follower, and Lord knows, at the end of the day went by and I haven't thought about it.
It sounds like she has forgiven you, because she's not opposed to your being released. Can I hear from the warden?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning. What can you tell us about Miss McKenzie?
So Miss McKenzie, obviously you had noted on her disciplinary, she has quite an exemplary disciplinary record. The write-up she did receive was quite minor, according to the rule book. She is, quite proud of getting her GED and her vocational skills. And, she's kept a consistent job in the kitchen, which is not always the easiest job. So we're very proud of her.
Well, thank you very much, Warren. That's all I have.
We will now hear from Ms. Ashley Dowden from Louisiana Parole Project.
Good morning or afternoon, not sure yet. Ashley
We're
Dowden,
still in the morning.
Louisiana Parole, yes, Louisiana Parole Project client advocate. If Joyce is released to us, she will be living at 2324 Brightside here in Baton Rouge. There she will stay with us and receive the full complement of services and programming. I spoke at length with Ms. Joyce about the importance of really becoming a part of the AA and NA community that we have here, and that those relationships can translate to anywhere in the world. I want to introduce her to the kind of the modern way of making those connections, that we have everything halfway online and in meetings. We've talked about the importance of that. There will be substance abuse evaluations and mental health support as well. And to get her situated and comfortable and healthy and ready to move on to her family.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. McKenzie, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I want to thank the board of parole for giving me a second chance. And I want to let y'all know I won't let you down. And I am so overwhelmed right now. And I thank you. I thank you all for giving me a chance to prove that I can do better and I will do better.
Thank you very much, Ms. McKenzie. Appreciate your comments. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Miss McKenzie, you had a rough start,
Yes, ma'am.
but you had an excellent finish.
Thank you.
And that's what we look for.
Yes, ma'am.
Only one write-up in over 20 years is outstanding.
Yes, ma'am.
Your risk score is low. You have good comments from the institution. The victim is not opposed to your release. And you have a good transition plan to the parole project. And so my vote today is to grant your parole to the Louisiana Parole Project Transition Plan.
Thank you so much.
But I'm just one vote now, Miss McKenzie.
Thank
Still
you.
got one down and two to go.
Thank you, Ms.
Yes,
Jackson. Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna be voting the same as Ms. Bonnie Jackson. You had a good program, positive comments from staff, low risk. And I want the conditions to be set by the chairman, and you'll be going to the parole project. You got a lot of good things ahead of you. You spent the time. Now go down there with Miss Dowden and them and do what's right.
Yes, sir. I sure will. I won't let you down.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Ms. McKenzie, my vote likewise is to grant you parole. I'm going to add the following conditions.
Yes, sir.
Number one, that you be released to the parole project and you follow all of their rules and all of their recommendations.
Yes,
I know
sir.
they're going to give you a substance abuse evaluation. I want you to follow whatever treatment is required by them.
Yes, sir.
I also want you to be on a curfew from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. As well. So
Yes,
those
sir.
would be your conditions.
Yes, sir.
So your parole has been granted today. So good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
Mr. Marabella, I believe we're ready to close out.
Well, I rather enjoyed that hearing. I thought it was a beautiful hearing from the beginning, where Miss Jackson brought up, and we'll go through the crime. We'll go through her appeal and also her co-defendant's appeal that has some additional information about this crime. But the crime itself was much more violent and wouldn't really be you'd have to remove those scenes to make it a full-blown comedy. But the idea that they thought they could get away with it is absolutely ridiculous. And I agree with Miss Jackson. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, the woman they attacked, like they said, her co-defendant was a client of this woman, and they didn't wear masks, and she knew exactly who she was. So the whole idea that she thought she could even get away with it is just absolutely absurd, and quite frankly, almost comical, if it wasn't so disturbing. But I thought that Miss Jackson was brilliant in this interview. It could have, we have seen other parole judges, kind of board members, kind of just cut off the inmate before letting them actually get into, given enough time to get through the nerves and talk about maybe what they've learned in the programs. And Ms. Jackson was able to kind of coax it out of her. And you did hear, I heard that she understood the programs. It started off like disastrously, but then it seemed that she did understand what she should do, and about having the sponsor, and about sobriety, and she started to answer the questions correctly. And what was very unique, and it's kind of sad to say that it's unique, but the remorse seemed 100% genuine. And also when she heard that she was forgiven, her reactions seemed just so genuine. We have seen plenty of people here that they were forgiven, and they're just kind of like, there's just nothing. And it just felt good to me. This felt like a good, solid hearing. Now let's jump into the crime. On January 24th, 2001, defendant and a co-defendant in April went to Holy Cross Child Placement Agency in Shreveport, Louisiana to rob Margaret, the owner of the agency. Miss Heacock Margaret knew Miss Wright from her participation in their child placement services. Remember, Miss Wright's the co-defendant. Miss Peacock was unlocking the door to her business the morning of the robbery when Miss Wright and the defendant came up behind her and told her they needed to talk to her. Once Miss Peacock got inside, they pushed her down onto the couch, and Miss Wright punched her in the head. Miss Wright then put her hand under her own shirt as if she had a weapon and threatened to kill Miss Heacock. Was I saying Peacock? Heacock. At this point, the defendant stuffed a paper towel into Miss Heacock's mouth and told her to remain quiet. So it was really her co-defendant that was the most violent, but Joyce did put a paper towel in her mouth, which is pretty fun, you know. Defendant emptied Miss Heacock's purse and took $315 in cash, her cell phone, her wallet containing credit cards, and the keys to her car. Miss Wright took Miss Heacock into another room of the agency and forced her to write a check in the amount of $10,000 because why not? Miss Heacock was then handcuffed to a file cabinet and forced by the two women to forward the business phone to the cell phone they had taken from her. Miss Wright went to a local check cashing service that she frequented and presented the $10,000 check for payment. Because of the size of the check, the service called the bank. The check was drawn on, verified that the funds were available, then called the Holy Cross Child Placement Agency to verify that the check was valid. A black female answered the agency's phone. How would they know? Okay. Presumably, the defendant using the stolen cell phone, which had the business phone, forwarded to it and informed the caller that the check was good. Miss Heacock jerked the drawer she was handcuffed to. So she's handcuffed to the drawer and I guess left alone, which is, you know, and she just like jerks it open. So like, you know, those drawers are long. So she, to the file cabinet, and she was able to call the police. Like, you can't make it up. I mean, not that it would have made a difference, you know, whether she called the police 6 hours later or right then, but it's just kind of funny. Miss Heacock had a photograph of April in her files, and she has a photograph. She has an actual picture in her files of April because she had done business with her. That's just, you know, this is Dumber and Dumber unless Miss Jackson said it's a movie, and provided a photo to the police. After hearing the story of the robbery on the news, an anonymous caller contacted Shreveport Police Department and told them that the defendant was likely the black female with April Wright during the robbery. Officer then showed a 6-person photo lineup containing defendant's picture to Miss Heacock. She immediately identified the defendant as the person who assisted Miss Wright in the robbery. Defendant and Miss Wright were apprehended a month later in Dallas, Texas. On April 10, 2001, I wonder how long that 10 grand lasted them. On April 10, 2001, the defendant charged defendant and Miss Wright with first-degree robbery. On November 13, 2001, both defendants entered a plea agreement with the state. Both defendants pled guilty to the instant charge, with the sentencing dependent upon a pre-sentencing investigation report. The state agreed to dismiss another charge of first degree, and both defendant and Miss Wright are charged. And I looked up her defendant in our spreadsheet that Richard has with me, and I did not find her, so I don't have a parole hearing for her. Defendant was sentenced to 30 years of hard labor. Now, here's the interesting thing. Her PSI sucked. Look what crime she's committed, including shooting her own brother, which is, you know, I mean, she had, as Ms. Jackson said, a bad beginning, right? The PSI indicates that the defendant has an extensive criminal history, which began when she was a juvenile. Her adult records include the following offenses: 1979 simple trunk, 82 is theft reduced to attempted theft, 85 is aggravated battery upon her brother. She shot him, they put in quotes, like, hello. Charges were dropped, though. 1987 simple burglary, pled guilty to attempted felony theft, 2 years probation. It's pretty amazing that she got 2 years probation after all of this. They still gave her probation. 1990 armed robbery, 5 years without benefit. 1994 simple battery, no disposition. 97 burglary, reduced illegal possession of stolen things. Then 2000 possession of Pepsi. Charges were dismissed. 2001 were the instant offenses and attempted first degree. Okay. And then she has another one, which is really scary. I mean, it's really scary. The court discussed the defendant's poor history of parole supervision and noted that just days prior to this offense, the defendant and Mrs. Wright attempted to rob a Citgo gas station. The store clerk, when confronted by the defendant and Miss Wright, pulled out a .45 caliber. Now, that's her co-defendant again. So, when she says that she was a follower, I might believe her in this situation. You hear that a lot, but at least it wasn't her that had the weapon or pulling the weapons, punching, right? Her defendant pulled out the .45 caliber automatic and pulled the trigger repeatedly, but the gun failed to fire, and then they escaped. Can you imagine? I mean, Louisiana is fortunate that no one got killed in there and that they got caught after this. And my guess is why it didn't fire. There could be any reason, but my guess is that she never charged the weapon. So there was never a bullet in the chamber and she's just pulling the trigger. Nothing would happen. Our review of the record leads us to conclude that the defendant's 30-year hard labor sentence is not okay. Now this is we're not go over the whole thing, but there is some additional information. This is her co-defendant, and she was sentenced to 18 years, which is quite interesting that her co-defendant got 30, but she seemed to be the one that, she had the gun and pulled the trigger in the robbery before this. She's the one who punched her. It was her idea. It was, but she got 18. Maybe that's because she had fewer charges. I don't know. On January 24, 2001, Wright and an accomplice, McKenzie, asked to speak with Margaret Heacock, the co-owner of Holy Cross Child Placement Agency, as she arrived for work. Heacock recognized Wright as a client of her business who had given up a child for adoption in December of 2000. For the adoption, Wright had allegedly expected a final payment of $10,000. So she has a child, and then it's kind of like a business, I guess, right? You can actually get paid $10,000 to have your child adopted. Wow. But she was only given $2,500. Wright had visited Heacock's office without incident the day prior to this event. Once the three were in Heacock's office, Wright began to hit Heacock, eventually shoving her onto a couch. Wright indicated that she had a gun and threatened to kill her. And you might have believed her that she had a gun. She did. They did pull the trigger at a gas station attendant the day before. She forced Heacock to write out a company check for $10,000. Well, why $10,000? It should have been $8,500 if she thought that. $7,500. She thought that she was owed that. That would have sent a message. If she only said $7,500, I would have believed her that she was owed the money, not that she should do this. But before handcuffing her to a file cabinet, Heacock's purse, cash, credit cards, car keys, and a cell phone were stolen. Before leaving the scene, Wright had Heacock's forward the business phone calls, the stolen cell phone. Wright and McKenzie drove from the scene to Heacock's car to a local check cashing establishment. With the aid of the cell phone, the two were able to cash the check, receive the money in $20 bills. That's a lot of $20 bills. Approximately 1 month after this event, Wright and McKenzie were arrested in Dallas, Texas, and extradited to Louisiana. Let's see what her PSI is. She was 28 years old. Right to be in need of custodial treatment, and the lesser sentence would to appreciate the seriousness of the offense, the court also determined that her conduct manifested deliberate cruelty as she had threatened the victim's life, handcuffed her, used threats of actual violence, and caused significant mental injury to the victim, who was particularly vulnerable due to her age. The court noted the seriousness of the offense, which was instigated and controlled by Wright and involved multiple incidents for which separate sentences were not being imposed. Additionally, the court pointed out that as a result of the guilty plea, the state did not file an habitual offender bill. In mitigation, the court found that Wright had acted under provocation. The court considered Wright's third felony status with prior convictions. No. I mean, it seemed that she has a similar record. I mean, she never shot her brother, but why did she get a lesser sentence? Man, I don't know. Isn't it weird? I mean, let's just say it how it is. Maybe it simply has to do with who the judge was. Does it say who the judge was? I'll say who the judge. I don't think we see it here. But there you go. I mean, I think we all do know that it can easily come down to who the judge was. And what are you going to say? Either way, I am happy with the outcome. I think it was for me, really pleasant, happy type of hearing. And I'm happy to tell you that she is still out. So she's doing well. This is a kind of case that I can root for the Parole Project, where the Parole Project can be such an important part of a positive transition. But sadly, we don't see very many of these. Thank you, Richard, for the info again. And with that, I'll let you go.